This is the Maytag RIP Special based on the Morgan RIP Special race car. It's built using a 10-foot aluminum ladder and a 6-foot aluminum ladder as the frame. On the front, I currently have mounted a vintage Maytag engine that I plan to get running in the future. It's covered in canvas. You can actually notice that I used a military duffel bag in the back. There's the handle and some of the holes from that duffel bag that I stretched over it. I've got a light there that I saved off of a vintage bus from I think the 50s. I bought it with a broken lens, but was able to piece it back together and fill it with epoxy. Has the Harbor Freight 224 engine underneath there. I've got the handle down here. On the original car, this was the shifter. On this car, it's the emergency brake. And basically just took the handle of a vintage hammer that I found at a thrift shop and welded it onto a motorcycle kickstart that goes into the inside, and you can see there it's an old sewing machine piece that I did some drilling on so it would attach to that cable. I've got steering wheel down here. This, what looks like a valve hand wheel, actually loosens up so that I have, I'll show you, so that I have tilt steering, but I also have where I can poke a button back here and pull the steering wheel off. This is the windshield. That's actually made from a piece of plexiglass that came out of a dryer door. That's what gives it that nice lip where I cut it out of the periphery of that door. If you look inside, you can see the bits of the ladder. This is one of the foot rungs for that ladder right there. And you can see the two ladders married to each other, one on top, one on the bottom. It's actually the 10-foot on the top with the 6-foot underneath of it to make the frame. The sides are done using aerospace aluminum that I picked up at a shop that I used to work at. It was scrapped from airplane skin. Got a leather seat. It's actually an old leather couch we had years ago. I cut that leather off thinking I would use it for something someday, and here it is. Altogether, I have about 250 bucks into the engine and torque converter transmission that everybody uses. I think the tires and rims were what would have been 50 bucks a piece. A good friend of mine gave them to me as a gift to get me started in my first cycle kart, which was real cool. The way I did the suspension, you can see it's got the double wishbone on the front. Those double wishbone pieces actually came out of a trashed Chinese two-child side-by-side go-kart, and I was able to take those off, and then I welded up my own frame. This is actually bed iron here and down under here. I welded up this whole cage that those go into, and then I welded a spot for the steering mechanism to go into that also came out of the go-kart. So really, I got the ladders, and then I welded up that frame, and it holds those wheels. In the back, you can see here, I've got this pivot and these rubber, I don't know, they're almost like a motor mount. But what I did is I put the rear end off that go-kart, which you can see here, it just goes all the way around. It came with the brakes on all the running gear. And so I just hacked that off the back of that go-kart, hooked it into my ladder right here. Actually, there's a piece of bed iron running down the length of the side of this car about 2/3 of the way, and that also is what ties into that rear axle. And then I welded this in with these rubber bumpers, which give it just a tiny bit of suspension, just enough to soften a hard hit. The canvas is stretched over a frame that I made out of metal pieces that came out of an old bed frame that somebody gave me. Up here, I got a key switch here that lets the engine run, turns it off, but it also cuts the power. I've set it up with a battery in it, so it has a switch here that turns on the tail light, and I'm going to put a headlight in also, because some places in Colorado I plan to drive it. If I got caught out late, I'd want to be able to see my way back. And in a nutshell, that's the Maytag RIP Special cycle cart.